we have seen Cambridge University students voting to push for a completely vegan menu across all of their catering services. Why? Because people who feel very strongly about issues often want to enforce those on other people. Let's talk to Nathan McGovern. He's the co-founder of a campaign group called Plant-Based Universities and is responsible for organising and pushing through that vote. Good morning to you, Nathan.
Wonderful to join you, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So when we say that we're looking at, basically students voting, which students? Is it just a Cambridge University Union? Because often that means you're just like a very, very small group of very sort of politically active people, and everyone else, frankly, is in the bar or writing an essay. How many people actually voted for this?
So let me just walk you through what this vote is. So it's representatives from all the Cambridge colleges voting as representative colleges in the Students' Union. On whether they should begin negotiations with the university catering services who control 5 cafes and internal catering for events at Cambridge. So it doesn't affect the actual colleges themselves.
It's just the university-wide body. Your motion calls for a change in response to climate and biodiversity crises. I disagree with both of those things as being crises. Was backed by 72% of non-abstaining student representatives who voted. So basically, an awful lot didn't vote. A lot of these, I mean, you know as well as I do, student bodies, they tend to be not particularly representative of a lot of the people, because most students don't even take part in any of these votes. They don't have anything to do with it. Why do you think this is an important issue? You may be a vegan, I'm guessing you are, and the people pushing for this. Is it not just good enough for you to not eat meat yourself, or to tell people, this is why I don't eat meat, this is why I think you shouldn't eat meat, rather than actually preventing all students from choosing what they eat? Why do you have to impose your moral views, your political views on other people?
Well, you've asked me quite a few questions in one there, Julie. I'll start with the first.
It's kind of the same question, isn't it?
You've mentioned the 72% of non-abstaining students. Well, it was 55% of the total votes, including the abstention, so that is still a very clear mandate. And now the campaign, the Plant-Based Universities campaign, is founded on well-mannered discussion like we're having here, on debate, on looking at the scientific literature and looking at the fact that if we are to have a sustainable food system that is going to feed the planet, it needs to be plant-based. And nowhere is better to start
evidence for that
than
statement.
A university like Cambridge, an elite university that has a responsibility to its students to be making these changes.
There's no evidence at all that Thomas Malthus, Paul Ehrlich, far more recently than Thomas Malthus, have been predicting that the world is going, we're all going to be starving to death because the world can't sustain this many people. Simply no evidence for that. We now produce more food for more people. More people are eating an adequate diet than ever before, even though we've got a population of 8 billion. It's just absolute nonsense that we need to stop eating meat to maintain our food supply for human beings. There's simply no evidence for that statement whatsoever. It's pie in the sky nonsense. But why?
Julia, I disagree with you.
Well, you can disagree, but I've got the facts on my side.
I'm talking about facts. There's some 600 million humans on this planet who are struggling to gain adequate nutrition and adequate
That's a
calories.
Lot fewer than they used to be.
There's around 83 billion land animals slaughtered every year for food. If we just talk about efficiency, I know we can disagree all day on the climate and ecological emergencies, but if we just talk about efficiency, a food system that relies on animals makes no sense whatsoever.
What are you talking about? We're omnivores. We've got those teeth at the front. They're deliberate. They're for ripping flesh. Human beings, one of the reasons why we don't spend our lives like gorillas just sitting there eating for 22 hours a day is because we're able to take in a lot of protein very quickly by eating meat and fish, and therefore able to spend our time inventing things and building things and living far more fulfilling, developed lives.
Let me just ask you a simple question.
Yeah.
Do you know what percentage of protein that humans consume come from animal products?
No,
Do you know that percentage?
You tell me.
40%. Less than half of our protein comes from animal products.
Quite a lot, though,
More than half is coming from plant-based protein sources. Again, to go back to the efficiency of food systems, around 83% of global farmland is used for animal products, and they provide less than 20% of our calories.
We use more. Do you know we use less agricultural land now than we used to?
Julia?
We use less agricultural land now because of more intensive products and also clever things like GM, which I'm sure you're probably opposed to as well. So your argument is an argument about the planet rather than an argument about the morality of eating animals. Is that right? Or is it both?
So it's both. It's, we look, at the fact there is the unnecessary deaths of billions of animals every year. But also,
They're not unnecessary. They're necessary for me to eat them.
That may not bother you, but then let's also talk about, as I've said, we can disagree on the climate and ecological emergency all day. You can ignore the facts, from Oxford, from Harvard, from Cambridge. Doesn't make them any less real, Julia. But the fact is, as I've said multiple times, the only sustainable food system is plant-based.
OK, again, no basis for that statement. Look, we're going to have to leave it, only because they're shouting at me through the control room. I've got to go to a break.